As you all know, I made a request today for what we were calling a gag order, and I'm not going to walk out of court and do anything other than live up to that.
Now, if the government is going to mandate that they are responsible for your well-being, they have to ensure the safety of your well-being.
Jennifer Lopez has reportedly left the United States under a cloud of alleged threats and intensifying drama tied to her past relationship with Sean Diddy Combs, and the rumor mill is on fire. With Diddy facing fresh legal battles and disturbing claims that hint at a much darker side to his high-flying lifestyle, sources say Lopez's sudden departure isn't just a coincidence. Was she driven to escape mounting pressures and possibly even direct threats? As old controversies resurface and the world watches, this unexpected twist has fans wondering just how much Lopez knew about Diddy's hidden world and what might come to light next.
We all saw it posted yesterday all over our social media pages. Cassie filed a lawsuit in New York City against Diddy.
Yikes.
She's claiming she was stuck in a decade-long cycle of abuse.
So imagine this: Jennifer Lopez, the queen of Latin pop, and Sean Diddy Combs, one of the biggest names in the music industry, caught in the whirlwind of a romance that dominated headlines in the late 90s and early 2000s. Their relationship wasn't just a regular celebrity fling. It was a full-blown media circus. Tabloids couldn't get enough of their every move, and together, they were the ultimate power couple. But here's the thing: what looked like bliss on the surface was, according to rumors, hiding much darker forces beneath. Jennifer, in her own words, has said that her time with Diddy was far from the fairy tale it seemed. In fact, she admitted that their relationship was so erratic and unstable that she just couldn't see herself having kids with him, she once told Vibe magazine. That she had to ask herself a hard question: do I want to be home with kids in 10 years, wondering where somebody is at 3 a.m? That's a pretty telling statement, right? She didn't catch him in the act, but she had a gut feeling, and that was enough for her to start questioning their future together.
Now, so what is next? Is he going to be in jail in this facility until the trial begins? Is there a chance he could, get moved earlier than that?
As of this moment, as of this hour, as of today, yes. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to be appealing this thing next to the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals to overturn the judge's order here to try and get him actually released.
Now, let's rewind and paint a picture of the time they spent together. It's around 1999, and Diddy is at the height of his fame. He's throwing these legendary white parties where the guest list reads like a who's who of Hollywood. You've got everyone from Leonardo DiCaprio to Beyoncé, Jay-Z, and even Jennifer Lopez herself. These parties were the stuff of legend, lavish, exclusive, and for the time, deeply glamorous. The kind of event that would make you feel like you were stepping into a world that most people could only dream of.
The rumors are that Diddy was running some kind of Epstein-type deal where he was filming everybody, right?
That's the rumors, yeah. I don't know that there's any proof or anything other than that.
Diddy's white parties weren't just any old Hollywood get-togethers. They were something out of a movie. Everyone dressed in white and the best music you could imagine. Celebrities were lining up to attend. People would talk about these parties for weeks after, and they became one of the most coveted invitations in town. But as we now know, these weren't just innocent gatherings. There are whispers that these events were more than what met the eye.
Does he have a shot? I think his attorneys raised some good arguments.
I think they raised good arguments as well. Maybe this will be third time's the charm, because the difference between this bail motion and the prior two is that this one really does get to the heart of what the court was concerned about, which was witness intimidation.
Fast forward to today, and those same parties are being dragged back into the spotlight, but this time for all the wrong reasons. There are claims floating around that these iconic gatherings weren't just about having fun. They were hiding a darker, more sinister agenda. What was once seen as the height of celebrity culture is now being looked at from a whole new angle, and the details are more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Think about it. Jennifer was right there in the thick of it. She was attending these parties, rubbing shoulders with some of the biggest names in the world. And while she eventually walked away from Diddy, it makes you wonder, didn't she see the warning signs? Could she have known back then that there was more going on behind the scenes? These are the questions people are asking now, and with good reason. Jennifer has spoken about how emotionally exhausting her relationship with Diddy was. She admitted that it was a roller coaster and they broke up more times than anyone knew, only to get back together again. She even described it as a tempestuous time in her life. It was scary, she said, and that's a pretty big word to use when talking about someone you once loved, but she wasn't just talking about the stress of being in a high-profile relationship. There was something deeper going on, something that made her realize she needed to get out. Eventually, she did, and she moved on to marry Mark Anthony, leaving Diddy in her past.
Those situations lend to maybe some issues with tampering. And I do feel like there are victims who are scared to come forward, including my client. She was very nervous about if he was going to get bail this week. And once I told her, and then come after people, including her and some of the other individuals, and she was very relieved when he did not receive.
But here's where things get interesting. Diddy's recent legal troubles have people looking back at his past relationships with fresh eyes. The allegations coming out now are shocking and paint a picture of someone who used his power and influence in ways that no one could have imagined back in the 2000s. And while Jennifer has stayed relatively quiet on the subject, the timing of her departure from the U.S. has raised some eyebrows. Could it be that she's distancing herself from the storm that's about to hit? It's hard to say, but what we do know is that Jennifer isn't the only one being dragged into this. Ellen DeGeneres, another high-profile figure, has also found herself caught up in the drama. And it all centers around those infamous white parties. Ellen has been friends with Diddy for years, and some of the resurfaced footage from her show has people questioning just how much she knew about what was really going on at these events.
Hello, Sean Diddy Combs. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you. Do you like being scared?
Let's talk about Ellen for a second. She's someone who's always presented herself as the fun, lighthearted talk show host who just wants to make people laugh. But recently, that image has been tarnished by accusations of a toxic work environment and mistreatment of her staff. So, when a tweet from years ago popped up where she referred to Diddy as Cuddle McSnugglestuff, people started to think twice. It's an odd nickname, especially considering what we know now. And the timing of it resurfacing, right as Diddy's facing these serious allegations, has left a lot of people wondering, what's the real story here?
Yes.
Well, that's why. Why don't you have one here on the West Coast? Because I work all the time.
Okay, well, maybe I have one at your house.
Where's that?
It doesn't help that Ellen's silence on the matter has only fueled the speculation. In the past, she's been quick to defend her friends, but this time, she's kept her distance. Could it be that she's trying to protect herself from being associated with the growing scandal? Or is she just waiting for the dust to settle before saying anything? Whatever the case may be, her connection to Diddy is now being scrutinized more than ever.
But I could think of you of starting a party at like midnight. Like, what time will it go till?
That's a different type of party, though.
And it's not just about Ellen. Other big names from Diddy's past are being dragged into the conversation too. There's a growing sense that his parties, which were once seen as harmless fun, might have been something else entirely. People are starting to look at the guest lists, the secrecy surrounding the events, and the fact that many high-profile celebrities haven't spoken out about them. It's almost as if everyone is holding their breath, waiting to see what will come out next.
Why was it necessary for you to come out, tell the public? Why was it necessary for the character to do so?
Because it's okay. Because it is okay.
The real question is, why now? Why are all of these details suddenly coming to light? Some people believe it's because the culture has shifted. We're no longer willing to look the other way when powerful men abuse their positions. And as more women come forward with their stories, it's becoming harder for anyone to hide behind their fame or fortune. Diddy's past is catching up with him, and it's not just his reputation that's on the line, it's his entire empire.
Ellen's alleged bad behavior had been whispered about in the industry for years.
What's fascinating about all of this is how it ties back to Jennifer Lopez. She's someone who has managed to reinvent herself time and time again, bouncing back from failed marriages and career setbacks to become one of the most successful women in the world. But her connection to Diddy, no matter how distant it may seem, is still there. And with these new allegations swirling around, it's impossible to ignore the darker side of their relationship.
Wow. So, ladies, J-Lo being open about gushing over Ben, do you think she's making a mistake this time, going so public? Or is she just in love?
Jennifer has always been careful to keep certain aspects of her life private. She's spoken about how she likes to keep things sacred and private, especially when it comes to her relationships. But in a world where everything is under the microscope, it's getting harder to keep those boundaries intact. The resurfacing of old interviews, photos, and even social media posts has people asking questions that Jennifer probably hoped would never be asked. And it's not just her. Other women from Diddy's past are coming forward with their own stories. Some of these allegations date back decades, and they paint a picture of a man who used his wealth and status to manipulate those around him. It's a far cry from the image of the charming, larger-than-life entertainer that the world fell in love with. And for Jennifer, who's managed to keep her head above the chaos, it must feel like a ticking time bomb just waiting to explode.
That he controlled every aspect of her life. He is accused of frequently beating her and would hide her in hotel rooms for days until the bruising and signs of abuse were gone.
As for Diddy, he's denied all of the allegations against him, but that hasn't stopped the rumors from spreading like wildfire. Every day, it seems like there's a new piece of the puzzle falling into place, and it's not looking good for him. His legal team is working overtime to try and clear his name, but with so many people coming forward, it's hard to see how he's going to get out of this one unscathed. And that brings us back to Jennifer. Is she leaving the U.S. to escape the drama, or is there something more to her sudden departure? It's hard to say, but one thing's for sure. This story is far from over. There's still so much we don't know, and with each passing day, it feels like we're inching closer to the truth. What that truth is, though, remains to be seen.
I'm not going to talk about anything that I haven't said in court or in the papers. These are all great questions, but I'm just not going to get into it. So,
can you speak about your concerns about the leak and the video? You have spoken about that before.
I did it in the court papers, and I'm just going to stick to the court papers. As you guys all know, let me just finish. As you all know, I made a request today for what we were calling a gag order, and I'm not going to walk out of court and do anything other than live up.
But here's the kicker. Diddy's not the only one under the microscope. There's a growing sense that Hollywood as a whole is being forced to reckon with its dark side. Celebrities who once seemed untouchable are now finding themselves at the center of scandals that could destroy their careers. And while some, like bennifer, have managed to distance themselves from the chaos, others are still stuck in the middle of it trying to figure out how to navigate the storm. As the allegations continue to pile up and more people start to speak out, it's becoming clear that this isn't just about one man. It's about an entire culture that's been allowed to thrive for far too long. The question now is, who will be next?
So I think they're just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping that it sticks because they know that their client is guilty and they're just trying to do the best that they can with a guilty client.
Let's dive even deeper into this because the more you unravel about Diddy's situation, the more complicated and, frankly, disturbing it gets. The man who once commanded attention for his flashy parties, designer suits, and undeniable charm is now facing accusations that are shaking the entertainment industry to its core. What's wild is that these allegations aren't just about him. They're pulling in a whole network of celebrities, famous friends, and acquaintances who, at one point or another, were part of his inner circle. It's easy to see why people are making comparisons between Diddy's situation and that of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, of course, we're not saying the two are identical, but there are some unsettling similarities that can't be ignored. Both men were powerful, both had access to the world's elite, and both hosted exclusive events that, on the surface, looked glamorous but allegedly hid something much darker. And the fact that Diddy's inner circle is under such scrutiny only fuels those comparisons.
That's of course. There's layers upon layers. When you get into these conspiracy theories, man, they never end. They never end. There's just layers upon layers upon layers.
Let's talk about those infamous parties for a minute. For years, Diddy's white parties were the highlight of the summer. A-listers from all over the world would fly in to attend, dressed head to toe in their finest white ensembles, sipping champagne and posing for the cameras. On the outside, these events were the epitome of Hollywood excess. Beautiful people, lavish settings, and the promise of a good time. But now, there's a growing suspicion that these parties weren't just about glitz and glamour. As more details come out, it seems that what happened behind closed doors was far from the innocent fun that everyone believed. There are rumors swirling that these parties, especially the after parties, were much more exclusive than anyone realized. We're talking about small, private gatherings that allegedly involved some pretty questionable activities. According to some sources, these events were carefully curated and only a select few were invited to attend. The guest lists, which were once a symbol of Diddy's power and influence, are now being scrutinized under a different lens. People are starting to ask, who exactly was at these gatherings and what did they know?
Replete with very, very serious and salacious allegations, including allegations that Combs had cameras throughout his home.
And then there's the matter of the freak-offs. If you haven't heard of these, buckle up because this is where things start to get even more bizarre. In the indictment against Diddy, there's mention of these so-called freak-off events where Diddy allegedly coerced people into participating in activities that they didn't fully consent to. These were reportedly wild, substance-fueled gatherings that lasted for days, with people being pressured into doing things they weren't comfortable with. The whole thing sounds like something out of a twisted movie, but according to the allegations, this was real life, and Diddy wasn't just an observer. He was allegedly right in the middle of it all, pulling the strings. What's more, there are claims that Diddy recorded some of these events on video. Now, we're not talking about innocent party footage here. These were reportedly intimate recordings that no one consented to, and the fact that they exist raises even more questions. Why would Diddy want to record these moments? Was it for leverage, blackmail, or something else entirely? No one knows for sure, but what we do know is that these videos could be a key piece of evidence in the case against him.
Yeah, that's trying a criminal case in the modern times. A lot of evidence is on electronic devices, cell phone, tablets, computers, things of that nature. And the devices, especially if you have like external hard drives, 90-something terabytes of data on a single device makes me think it's some type of hard drive. That takes weeks to go through just for one device on its own.
And it doesn't stop there. There are whispers that Diddy wasn't acting alone. People are starting to speculate that he had a whole network of people helping him, assistants, security staff, maybe even other celebrities. The idea that this was a one-man operation is starting to feel less and less likely. The more you dig into the details, the more it seems like this was a carefully orchestrated scheme that involved a lot of moving parts. And if that's the case, then we could be looking at one of the biggest scandals to ever hit Hollywood. So, where does Ellen fit into all of this? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The fact that she's been so quiet about the whole situation has people wondering if she knows more than she's letting on. Maybe she was just an innocent bystander caught up in Diddy's orbit without realizing what was going on behind the scenes. Or maybe she saw things that made her uncomfortable but didn't say anything at the time. Either way, her connection to Diddy is now being questioned, and it doesn't help that there are clips from her show that, in hindsight, feel a little too on the nose.
So tell me about your birthday party. Am I invited?
Yes. Yes, you're definitely invited. I invite you to all my parties. You just haven't seemed to show up.
No, well,
Take that 2018 interview, for example, where Ellen literally begged Diddy to come to one of her parties. She joked that once you get there, the party really starts, and the two of them shared a laugh. It all seemed lighthearted at the time, but now, it's hard not to read into it. Was Ellen just playing the role of the fun, party-loving host, or did she know more than she was letting on? And what about the other celebrities who attended Diddy's parties? Are they all in the same boat as Ellen, keeping quiet because they don't want to be associated with the scandal? It's also worth mentioning that Ellen isn't the only one who's been dragged into this mess. Other celebrities who were regulars at Diddy's events are suddenly finding themselves in the spotlight, whether they like it or not. Ashton Kutcher, for example, once described Diddy's parties as weird and admitted that he felt uncomfortable at some of the things he saw. Then there's Khloe Kardashian, who openly admitted on an old episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians that some of the guests at Diddy's parties were, let's just say, not fully clothed. These little snippets, these throwaway comments from years ago, are now being re-examined in a whole new light. And it's not just the celebrities who attended these parties that are being questioned. People are also starting to ask about the executives and industry insiders who were close to Diddy. There's a theory that some of the record label execs knew exactly what was going on but turned a blind eye because they were benefiting financially from their association with Diddy. After all, being in Diddy's inner circle meant access to the biggest names in music, entertainment, and beyond. And for some, that was worth the price of silence.
And in this lawsuit, he claims that essentially P. Diddy was the Epstein of the rap.
What's really crazy is that these parties weren't just limited to Hollywood. They spanned across the country, from Diddy's mansion in Miami to his homes in Los Angeles, and even overseas. There are rumors that some of these events took place in Europe, with international celebrities and dignitaries in attendance. And while none of these high-profile guests are being accused of any wrongdoing, the fact that they were present at these gatherings has raised some serious questions. Could it be that these parties were more widespread than anyone realized? And if so, how deep does this go? As the investigation continues, more and more people are coming forward with their own stories. Some of them are women who were allegedly taken advantage of, while others are former employees who claim they witnessed things they wish they hadn't. One of the most shocking stories to come out is from comedian Jeff Wittick, who said that he attended one of Diddy's parties when he was just 20 years old. He described the event as crazy and admitted that it was the first time he had ever seen people engaging in such wild behavior.
Now you got the Diddy situation where he jumps on a private jet, they say yesterday, and is on his way to the Cape Verde Islands.
Wittick's account, along with others, is adding fuel to the fire and making it clear that this isn't just a case of one or two people coming forward. There's a growing group of individuals who are speaking out, and their stories all seem to point to a pattern of behavior that Diddy allegedly engaged in for years. The question now is, how many more people will come forward, and will their testimonies be enough to bring Diddy's empire crashing down? And let's not forget about the legal side of things. Diddy's lawyers are fighting tooth and nail to keep him out of jail, but it's not looking good. He's already been denied bail twice, and prosecutors are painting a pretty grim picture of him. They've described him as a serious risk to witnesses, which is why they're pushing so hard to keep him behind bars. Diddy's team, on the other hand, is calling the whole thing a witch hunt, claiming that the government is targeting him because of his success.
That clearly there is a criminal investigation underway, and that they believe that there would be evidence of crimes in one or both of these homes.
But here's the thing. This isn't just about Diddy anymore. The ripple effect of these allegations is spreading, and it's dragging other people into the spotlight, whether they want to be there or not. Celebrities, industry insiders, and former employees are all being forced to take a hard look at their connections to Diddy and decide how they want to handle the fallout. And for some, like Ellen, staying silent might no longer be an option. As this story continues to unfold, one thing is certain: it's far from over. Every day, it feels like a new piece of the puzzle is falling into place. And the more we learn, the more questions we have. What did Ellen really know? How deep does this go? And will Diddy's powerful friends continue to stand by him, or will they start to distance themselves as the scandal grows? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's get the conversation started. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, stay curious,